Hello crafty friends, I'm Lien from Studio Kato and I'm so happy to be back on the Crafty Meraki YouTube channel today. Today I have a very bold card for you. I am kind of terrified of using red on my cards, so I figured I would use red for the entire card panel and challenge myself. And I'm starting out by die cutting this partially with the Wanderlust die by Crafty Meraki. It's a really fun die. There's no edges on it, so it's really easy to partially die cut because you don't even have to bother with the plates. It's not going to cut an edge all the way around the panel. It's just going to cut those holes in it. So I am backing the part where I die cut it with a piece of lighter red cardstock, and then I am gluing the darker red right on top of it. I'm using Barely Art Precision Craft glue for this. You can find that at the Crafty Meraki store. I will leave a link to all the products I used today in the description below. I am not going to call out all of the product names from here on out because I'm using a lot of different Flora dyes and I'm just mixing and matching them. So I will leave the full list in the description below, but I'm not going to call out the product names. It's going to waste too much time, I'm sorry. So I'm just gluing this on. You can see that I didn't bother to put glue everywhere. It's not really necessary. I'm just making sure that there's enough glue on the sides to keep it in place. Now for my florals, like I said, I die cut a bunch of them from different sets, and I am going to do some ink blending on them to give them a little bit more definition. Now this cardstock looks pretty much white, but it's a very light pink. It's a really stunning cardstock, and I am just going to ink blend it with a soft peachy pink in the middle to add a little bit of definition to it. Just a little bit of shading to step things up. This die set also comes with the side view of the flowers, which is a lovely addition, I think. And those come in two pieces. So you just stack the 2-petal piece on top of the 3-petal piece, and you have a full side view of a flower. And it's really fun to add that to your floral arrangements because it's just a little bit different than those top view, those standard top view flowers. This is another favorite of mine, and it cuts all of these tiny bluebells, I suppose. I'm very bad with flower names, but it's one of those die sets that cuts a bunch of pieces all at once. Some of the leaves are from one of those die sets as well, and the orange flowers I'm going to use are also all cut in one piece die. So it's really easy to cut a bunch of pieces at once. I didn't spend, I think I only spent 5 minutes die cutting for this card, and there's quite a lot of pieces on there. So now it's time to assemble, which is my favorite part. I am just assembling the flowers first because that just makes it easier to arrange them. Just putting a dot of glue in the center of the flower, or yeah, the center of the flower. And then for those bluebell thingies, they also come with a stem to adhere them down on. So I'm doing that first as well, so I can adhere them as one piece. That also makes it a lot easier to fiddle around with the placement and figure out where it's supposed to go, instead of having to move all 8 pieces of those. Some of those leaves I am also just gluing down right behind my flower, instead of just putting down the flower first and figuring out the leaves after. It just makes it easier if you have less pieces, less separate pieces to work with. So if you can adhere some of the pieces together before you adhere them on your card, it's probably going to make your life a little bit easier. Now I also cut out this olive leaf. This is the smaller die in the set. It comes with 2 sizes of olive leaf branches, and they're gorgeous. They're my favorite leaf dies from Crafty Meraki. And I just adhered this down as a full-size piece. I didn't cut it apart like I usually do. And this actually gave me a lot of direction of where to adhere the flowers down. I just liked the shape of it, and I thought it would be a great guide to adhere the rest of my flowers. I'm assembling more of those bluebells and adhering those down as well. I'm using very little glue here, so sometimes you can see pieces start moving around because they're not adhered down properly, but I really didn't want glue to ooze out of the sides. Now for the flower centers, I am using my favorite Crafty Meraki Opal gem. This is the Citrine Opal gem, and it's perfect for flower centers. It's the one I always use for my flower centers because it's off-white. It's not a harsh white. It's I think it looks a little bit yellow on the pictures on the site, but it's really, really not. It's just a slight off-white, and it's gorgeous. Now these are the Emerald Meraki Sparkle gems. They're really, really beautiful as well. They're one of the older gems, but they're still my favorite. They're just a really, really pretty green, and I'm adhering all of the gems, also the flower centers, I'm adhering those down with Nuvo Deluxe Adhesive. It's quite a bit stronger than the Barely Art Precision Craft Glue, and I do like it for my gems. It's a lot easier to work with a glue that dries faster if you're adhering gems down. And this almost finishes up my card. All I'm going to do after this is adhere a sentiment down, and I am using a sentiment that I've already prepared before. I am going to fiddle around with a couple of different sentiments before I am happy with it, before I decide on a sentiment, but this is just a sentiment strip that I had laying around, and it makes things a lot easier to work with. When you have a couple of sentiments prepared, you don't have to go around and get out all of your stamping gear if you've made an entirely die-cut card. Now I also fiddled around with the placement for a bit because it's hard to make it connect to the design. So I figured out it would be a lot easier to have it feel like it belongs to the design if it overlapped a little bit with the flowers. So that's what I decided on in the end. For some reason, that part was not filmed. I don't know what happened, but I just propped it up on some foam tape and that's it. It's overlapping with the flowers a little bit, but I think it looks a lot better that way, even if I had to sacrifice a little bit of my flowers. I love the red, but it's really hard to pair colors with red. That's why I don't use it that much. But the spring green contrasts with it nicely, as does the periwinkle that I got by blending on some purple ink on blue flowers. And then the super light pink is something that always works with red because it's basically the same color family. So yeah, if you struggle with colors, don't worry, I do too. You can look up some color combinations online, that sometimes helps, but I do admit red is tricky always. But if you get it right, you get a really bold look for your cards, and I do love how it turned out. I hope you like it too. If you did, make sure to leave a thumbs up on this video, subscribe to the channel, subscribe to my channel as well, and I hope to see you next time.